Thank you for watching the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. In a recent video I lied. Okay, technically, I did not lie. My source lied. But I knew that my source was lying, but I made the video anyway. What was the video talking about? The video was talking about white depopulation across Europe and North America. And it said that only white people were being depopulated. And the source then quoted some data stating that Latinos were the most prolific at repopulating, and in second place blacks, meaning they were less than the Latino. This is a lie. Here's the reason that it's a lie. The actual information is a lie because it is completely untrue. People are being fooled by the mainstream media and the ongoing fear-mongering about black people. Black income has equaled whites for years now. Black people don't save and invest like white people and Asians, so the wealth gap has actually widened since the 60s, contrary to what the Democrats keep trying to pretend, but that's another discussion. Since blacks have the income, they lead the same lifestyle as whites and have the same goals, drive, and desires as whites. It is the modern rich, compared to second and third world countries, lifestyle that makes couples think of work and money before family. If you took a black and white household, put them side by side, and ignored wealth, you'd have the same exact spreadsheets. Black population growth is almost identical to white population growth, which means blacks will disappear first in the United States. Blacks are not having the children that we once used to have. Blacks no longer have. And when I say blacks, everybody rushes to think about the image that the mainstream media and even black people are guilty of this. Everybody thinks of the image that the mainstream media has painted and the misinformation and the direct lies that the mainstream media paints of what a black person in the United States is. When you think of a black person in your mind, you're thinking of T-Bone, Tyrone, somebody who's poor, criminal, uneducated, unwise, immoral, hypersexual, can't speak English. These are the images, and no matter how I have 1,700 videos of positive black images in them, people still think this. And they still think that black people are poor or in jail or single mothers, and they still toss around this complete and ignorant lie that black children are 70% born out of wedlock to single mothers. It is an utter lie. There's no truth in it. It's not even a close lie, like there's some truth in it. No, there's not even an iota of truth in it. This is the propaganda that the mainstream media, Hollywood, the Zionists have painted of black people. So now even if you get black people, and here's what's really crazy. You have middle class and upper class blacks thinking, I must be the only middle class black. I must be the only upper class black. And when I say stuff like 80% of the black population in the United States is middle and upper class, people lose their mind. Just completely lose their mind. Well, I'm here to tell you that's true. You cannot have negative population growth in the United States for black Americans unless they are lockstep with white lifestyle. White households and black households have very little difference to them. The mainstream media paints you this picture of, black people are criminals and the police are shooting black people. We just don't have the numbers. We just do not have the numbers that the mainstream media would have you believe. Think about it. If blacks were so criminal, so poor, so uneducated, instead of one report every other night about a black person being shot or a black person shooting, they would have 20, 30, 50, 200 reports each and every night. There aren't enough black people to go around the sensationalism that the mainstream media would have you believe that is black. We are a very small percentage of the population of the United States. Very tiny percentage. The only reason that you can't even concentrate on us is because our skin is dark brown and yours are shades of pink and olive. That's the only way. It's just like, say for instance, instead of black people, let's say we were talking about girls who wear pink dresses. Now, I want you to think in your daily life, think over the past week. How many girls in pink dresses did you see, if you can remember? But now that I've drawn your attention to girls in pink dresses, from now on, for the next week, you are going to recognize and be aware of girls in pink dresses. This is psychology. As soon as your attention is drawn to something, you're going to notice more and more and more of it. My roommate, who is white, we moved to another area, and he said, "Oh, there's so many black people here. There's so many black people here. There's so many black people here." I looked the data up, and in the particular area that we were in, the population, the demographics of blacks in the area were 2%. Now imagine that. My roommate thought there were black people everywhere, when in fact, he was seeing unicorns left and right in his mind, right? Because there's only 2% black people in the entire area. If he saw 10 black people together, that was a miracle. But he doesn't realize that he's so aware of black people that anytime a black person came even into his peripheral vision, he tallied it up to, there's another black person, there's another black person, there's another black person, when in the area there was only 2%. For most of the United States, black people are 2% of the population in the area, because most of the United States just does not have black people in it. But that's not what the mainstream media would have you believe. And the mainstream media then paints a picture of black people are everywhere, a lie, and black people are criminals, or black people are violent, black people are arrested all the time, black people are shot all the time. All lies. If you pluck one story out of the hundreds that actually happen in your city each and every night, and you're doing a story on a black person, you're literally plucking the needle out of the haystack. Black income and white income are virtually the same in this day and age. What they're getting you on, and what you don't realize, is that black wealth and white wealth have a disparity. But that's because of the miseducation and the lack of education, of financial education in the black community, which I've tried to report on. Nobody wants to see it. Oh, people want to see twerking. People want to see black people fighting each other, but they don't want to see a black guy talking about financial news. They don't want to see a black guy do an entire series on what is the stock market, what is insurance, how to buy a house, how to save money. It's so ironic that I get people literally chiming in from the prepper community. You don't need to save money. Yes, you do need to save money. And I consider it a grave insult and miseducation that preppers would tell anybody not to save money. As a prepper, you should be saving money too. Yes, you should get your bullets, get your water, get your potatoes, get your seeds, but you should also have a bank account. This isn't 1800. You should have a bank account, and you should be able to take care of your lifestyle in this day and age. And if it says for blacks, that's who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the preppers. But people don't want to see those videos. They want to see twerking. They want to see black people beating up anybody. They want to see black people beating up anybody. Be it other black people. They want to see black people beat up white people. They want to see black people beat up Latinos. They want to see black people beat up Jews. You have this sick, barbaric, Romanesque. You remember the great Roman Empire? It was just filled with a whole bunch of barbarians. Uncivilized. They tout how civilized the Roman Empire was. It was a bunch of bloodthirsty barbarians. Oh, of course, in the paintings, everybody's walking around in white robes, and you have the Senate, and they're all so sophisticated, giving great speeches. That was few and far between. It was nothing but a bloodbath. That was the entire Roman Empire. And that simply carried on throughout Europe for the rest of, all the way up until today. It never went away. Europeans are bloodthirsty. when they're not beating brown people over the head, they're beating each other over the head. Look at Russia, look at Eastern Europe versus Western Europe. And in fact, they're embargoing each other left and right, making little tiny European babies starve and women starve. Look at Sweden. Look at the EU. Barbaric, just bloodthirsty, barbaric, insane policies that make absolutely no sense. You can't actually say, hey, we invited these Muslims into our country, and now they're raping and pillaging the entire nation. And not only that, but we're going to make sure that every single town and village in the country has a supply of Muslims to go around. And nobody has the common sense to say, hey, no, this is not good. We are literally inviting the enemy into our country to slaughter us. And of course, that's politically incorrect. But this is all the same exact media that tells you the Europeans are racist if they say Muslims can't come into their country. Hello, look at Switzerland. They're having a great time. This is the same mainstream media that tries to portray black people as poor, indigent, uneducated, what have you, blah, 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 when in reality, the exact opposite is true. We have whole towns now of rich black people, entire towns, from the mayor on down, everybody in the town, rich black people, and they're popping up everywhere. But the mainstream media is not going to tell you, oh, there are over 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 communities of middle class and wealthy black people living just with each other. I try and make these videos, and people just don't believe it. I try and make videos and I say the median income in this all black area is 100,000. And people, that's not wealthy. Well, it's not poor. That's just 50,000 for each person in the house. I don't know if you've checked the demographics of the United States, but 50,000 is getting damn close to the 1%. It might be even so far, I haven't looked it up, but it's getting damn close to 1%. 1% is only 300,000. So 100,000, is probably getting close to the nosebleed section where only a few people exist. Blacks are in the 1%. Blacks are in the upper. I mean, you already know that we have a whole bunch of rich black people. Heck, half of you have rich black people on your walls, in your bedroom. You watch them every Sunday. You pop the tape in, or I'm sorry, not the tape, those days are over. You pop the CD, you turn it on your phone, you pop in your auxiliary cord and listen to rich black people. Even fake black people talking about fake stuff that happened to them fakely since they didn't even write it. They didn't grow up in the hood. They didn't shoot people. They're not about to shoot people. They're not going to shoot people. They actually are not angry at anybody. They're just making music. So I apologize that I lied in my video. It wasn't that I lied. I was quoting my source, but I know the source to be a lie. Black people are dying just as much as white people are dying. Black people will die out first. Now, I also said that this whole Planned Parenthood abortion, slaughtering of the black population is going down. And then I have white supremacists come on my channel and said, oh, those are located in your, well, actually, there's a big influx of rural, white, single women who have far more abortions than all of the black women combined, right? You have to keep in mind that black people are 10% of the population. It doesn't matter what the people say, and people keep harping to per capita. I'm sorry, when you only have 10,000 of a people in an area and 100 of them do something, you don't do per capita, because that's insanity. The raw data is only 100 people did it versus 10,000 white people did it. And that's what you're trying to compare. But you are so stuck on, somebody said they're more likely a higher rate. It doesn't matter. It was only 100 women. It was only 50 women. It was only 10 women. It was only 2 black guys. Look at the damn raw data. it boggles the mind how just plain stupid people are. When you're dealing with 10% of the population, you cannot say likelihood, a bigger rate, per capita. You can't say stuff like that because literally you could be talking about 10 black people. It's just, you're uneducated. I get it. But please don't wallow in your miseducation. There's no need for it when you have the internet. And there's no need for it when I tell you, don't look at per capita. It makes zero sense because the only time you can look at per capita is when you're comparing oranges to oranges. Just like, here's what's really crazy. Just like when the feminists say, women are paid 70 cents on the dollars, women are paid 60 cents on the dollars, and people turn around and say, you're not comparing oranges to oranges. You're just saying all women working versus all men working. First of all women working, the actual number itself aren't even equal because there's a lot of women who don't work at all. So you're not even comparing fruit to fruit. You're comparing like fruit to elephants. I mean, just stuff that isn't even remotely equal. Then you're saying all women working make this much, all men working make this much, and compare that number. That doesn't make sense. In a town, you could have 10,000 men be engineers who all make $300,000 a year. And in that same time, you could have 90% of the women working as menial secretarial jobs who make $18,000 a year. And you're trying to compare women to men. It makes zero sense. And then they say, see, women only make 60 cents on the dollar for every dollar a man makes. That makes no sense. You're comparing engineers to secretaries. Of course they don't make the same amount. It's not the same job. But for some reason, you men, I mean, it's mostly men. My channel is 90% men. You men can accept that. It's logical that you understand. You go through the process. You hear the information. You hear the data and say, aha, I get it. Women are wrong. They don't make 60 cents on the dollar. Especially when you actually get a real comparison data of women to men, woman, female engineer, male engineer, female CEO, male CEO. And then you look at that chart and then you discover women actually make more than men because they go out of their way to overpay women for the same exact job. You can comprehend that, but for some reason you can't comprehend the black community. The black population in the United States is only 10%. The white population is 63%. Or even 67%, depending on whose chart you're looking at, of the population. And you're trying to compare that to the black population and trying to derive some sort of equality out of it, saying that, oh, we've captured and put in jail 100 black men. They're more violent. No, they're not. And in fact, black people aren't more anything than white people. They take just as many drugs. They do just as little crime because crime is at an all-time low. Rape is at an all-time low. Violence against women is at an all-time low. Feminism, you've won. Oh, I'm sorry. That's feminism. That's not third-wave feminism. Third-wave feminism is still going to be out there saying, oh, we need to stop the rape against women. It's at an all-time low. And in fact, men are raped more than women. But they don't want to tell you that. You can't compare 67% of the population to 10% of the population in nobody's book. And if you do insist on comparing and you insist that the numbers are real, that the comparison and the rate and the per capita is all true, you're a white supremacist because you are insisting on believing a lie about a population that is mathematically insignificant. When I try and do my research on black firms, that's companies, businesses, stores, what have you. The data says the amount is so insignificant we have no data on it, none. There's just not enough black people. There's a lot of charts like that, but people report stuff and they say, oh, you have a higher percentage. It's impossible because most of the data that I look at says not a significant portion enough. It means there's not enough black people to even go around doing this, that, and the other to even come up with a conclusion. But we can do broad stuff like, are black people having children? Because that's the entire population. We're talking about 40 million or something like that. So we have a very large number to actually look at for something as obtuse as, are they having children or aren't they? And I keep going back to people saying, black people are more criminals. 75% of the black people in jail are there for simple marijuana possession. So it's an impossibility that the 25% left, first of all, are violent criminals? No. Most of those 25% are also there for non-violent crimes. Probably a lot of personal crimes or personal offenses or personal violations. Meaning they did something against city regulations and ended up in jail. Trust me, black people are way too chill to go around beating and yeah, there's some gangs, but even that's on the downfall. There are more Filipino gangs, more Latino gangs, and now looking at 2020, there are more white gangs in all white areas. That's amazing, isn't it? You can't get crime stats and say black people, who are only 10% of the population, commit more violent crimes. The math itself would tell any reasonable person, any logical person, that that's an impossibility. Because, first of all, you calculate crime in 1 to every 100,000 people in the population. So you cannot have black people committing more violent crimes. Because, first of all, that would mean that you would have 50%, 60% of black men in jail being there for violent crimes, and they are not. Right? First of all, right? That data is sound. Second of all, per 100,000 population, that means that white people decimate those charts, just destroy those charts. You don't have enough black people to go around. Black people are in jail for marijuana, for pot. That's what black people are in jail for. They're not in jail for shooting schools, shooting businesses, shooting their wives. That's not what they're in jail for. They're in jail for pot, marijuana. And even the discussion of crime, like I said, is at an all-time low. And this is more the mainstream media talking to you as if you all were dummies. So this is a warning, black people. You're not having babies. And no, this is not talking about abortion. And that's not it. Abortion is not a factor either. You're not having babies. Abortion is a poor person thing. I know the feminists want you to think that the average woman who's middle class and 20-something-year-old is having abortions, and that is just not true. Abortion is a poor person thing. That's why all of those Planned Parenthoods are located in poor neighborhoods in the inner city. They're not located in Roslyn Hills, in Chesapeake Valley. That is not where Planned Parenthood is located. They're located in poor areas, so that poor white, Latino, and black and Asian women can go there and murder their babies. It's all smoke and mirrors. Oh, it's a woman's right. It's a woman's right. And when in fact, actually, the people who are leading the charge are middle class, married, and if they're straight, they have children. Black people are not having kids. You're middle class, you're upper class, you now have good incomes, you've gotten used to this lifestyle, the American lifestyle, the American dream, quote unquote, and you're not having kids. You're trading work for family, which in my family would be considered a sin. I'm the only person who's not married with children. Everybody else has 5 or more children. Everybody else in my family. All of these CEOs and what have you that's in my family, all these lawyers and police chiefs and judges and all this stuff in my family, all these CEOs and what have you in my family, 5 or more. 5 or more. I'm the only lone wolf, which I guess means my family, the line is going to continue throughout eternity, since that's the custom, right? Grandmother had 15 children. They all have 5 or more. We're good to go. So I do apologize for misleading. I was not doing it on purpose. The information about the white people is completely true because I checked that on several sources. White people are not having babies. Not having babies. I'm not saying they're killing their babies. They're not having them. They don't want to have children. Black people are not having babies. They're not killing them. They're not having them. They're not getting pregnant to begin with. They're trading work for family, money for family, lifestyle for family. Now, some of you are going to say, well, I'd prefer to have the lifestyle. I want 5 children. Maybe I'm a product of my family, but that's what I want, 5 children. All right, thank you for watching the Shakaama Live Show. And if you like this video, leave a like.